Tony Pauline he's an NFL insider. I can never remember who he writes for at this point, says that there's speculation around the NFL right now that the Pittsburgh Steelers know exactly who they're picking in the first round if that guy is available, and that is Graham Barton. Quote, speculation from people in the league familiar with the organization is that Graham Barton of Duke will likely be the pick. The reasoning is simple. Barton was an accomplished offensive tackle at Duke, offensive lineman at Duke, and projects to be a center in the NFL. The Steelers need help at both positions, and Barton's ability to line up at either makes him attractive. The Steelers wouldn't consider Barton as a tackle. They'd only consider him as a center. But it makes sense that he would be the pick. I mean, he was my guy in the last round or in the last mock draft. He probably remains my guy to this point, depending on who falls. If you get a guy like Quinion Mitchell, if you get a guy like Cooper DeJean, if you get a guy like, I mean, I don't know, the Penn State, I can never say his name. The Penn State offensive tackle, it continues to somehow fall backwards. And if that's a name that's still on the board, the Steelers consider that, and they probably make a move for one of those three guys. If not, Barton would probably be next on my list of just realistic possibilities for the Steelers. I'm not talking whether or not they should make the decision. I'm saying this is who, if I had to guess, is first on the Steelers' mind at pick 20, given the available options. Now, moving back to 28, are you comfortable saying maybe Barton's gone by pick 28, but Jackson Powers-Johnson, Armarius Mims, Tyler Guyton, Zach Frazier, obviously, all those guys are still available at 28. And on top of that, you get another second round pick. So you now go 1 first, 2 seconds, 2/3. I mean, that's not a bad place to be if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers. Do you give up Graham Barton potentially to make that move?
I would say so. I know Graham Barton has shot up everybody's draft boards of the last couple of weeks, but let's not forget the pedigree of some of these guys. And like you mentioned, the Steelers have more than one need. If they had, a solid left tackle right now that was a little bit higher than Dan Moore could give you, if they had, a better defensive tackle, if they had that answer at wide receiver, then you'd say, all right, get the best player at 20, which is Graham Barton, who's going to be the guy that is at the top of your board. But if you go back to 28 and give yourself an opportunity to get maybe 2 of Jackson Powers-Johnson and Amarius Mims, then while, you're not getting the best possible player at that one position, you're filling multiple needs potentially for the future. So I would say that it's 100% something that if the board falls in that way, like you're mentioning, where a lot of these guys are falling, and while, yes, you might have to sacrifice Graham Barton, who is a stud, I'd still say it's better for your team in the long run to move back and be able to fill multiple holes with higher pedigree players, especially if you get that second round pick.
Yep. Look at I view Graham Barton as the guy. This is your next potential Marquise Pouncey. This is your next potential Hall of Fame center. This is the guy that you don't have to worry about the position anymore. I get it. And I argue against the whole, well, it's a center. You don't select centers in the first round, that the positional value isn't as high as other positions. I argue against that most times when I feel that Graham Barton is good enough to kind of overstep that boundary and say, whatever, dude, it's Graham Barton. This is a great pick. You go with a great pick. No need to take a risk. That changes when there are other potential options out there, when you can move back and get a second round pick. And now you're looking at it as Graham Barton and whoever you get in the second round, which at that point is most likely a corner or a wide receiver, because you're not going to take an offensive tackle at pick 51, or you're going to move up, compared to maybe an Armarius Mims or a Tyler Guyton at 28. And then you could make moves in the second round to add a center. And then you have a second round pick where you could get a guy like Malachi Corley or Roman Wilson, or possibly Ladd McConkey, where you have better options in the second round, and you just added an offensive tackle and a center, and you still have 2 third-round picks. That's a game changer. If you could line up and you could walk away with, I don't know, let's say Mims is off the board, because I'm not sold on Mims falling just yet, but let's say Mims is off the board, and you're going Tyler Guyton, Zach Frazier, because I don't believe the whole Zach Frazier is going to slide or climb his way into the first round. Not yet, at least. Zach Frazier in the second. We'll make it even better. Andrew Phillips in the second, and then you go into the third and you get, I don't know, again, Malachi Corley, Ricky Pearsall, and then you still have another pick to make in the third round. I mean, maybe I'm crazy. I'm saying that's a better move than just getting Graham Barton in the first round.
Yeah, I mean, again, it goes back to how many holes can you fill, especially for a team that is looking towards a Super Bowl this year. And if you fill those holes with first and second rounders, even if it's a later first round pick, you're still getting higher quality players
Yep.
that are more ready to come in and be a difference maker this year. Maybe not at the beginning, like we saw last year with Broderick Jones and Joey Porter Jr., who both stood
Yeah.
on the sidelines at the start of the season, but people that by the end of the year, maybe even the playoffs, we saw it last year with Rashee Rice.
Yep.
Maybe by the end of the season, maybe by the playoffs, this is somebody that's going to be able to make a difference. And that's what you get in the second round. That's what you get even late in the first round, to get more of those options. I don't know how that's a bad thing for the Steelers. Yeah, you might miss on a guy like Graham Barton, and that might sting a little bit. But at the same time, if it gets you to where you want to go, at the end of the day, it gets you where you want to go.
That's what I'm saying. If your roster looks better at the end of the draft, your roster looks better. There's no way around it. And it could look this much better, or it could look this much better. And obviously you want it to look as good as it could possibly get. And the more draft picks you have, the better. I don't know. Omar Khan's a guy that always thinks 3 steps ahead. And when I tell you guys that this guy, every time I'm with Omar Khan, every single time, he is always on the phone. And I'm always making jokes with him. I'm always like, should I go get my laptop? Should I be prepared for something? Do I got to start calling sources? And he's like, nah. But he's, as he's laughing, he's like, nah. I'm like, dude, you're obviously doing something. There's no way you're not. He always is 4 or 5 steps ahead. It's crazy how this guy operates. People have brought in the Brandon Ayuk trade in the chat, and I appreciate that. I think that ties in perfectly because look I don't know if the Steelers trade for Brandon Ayuk during the NFL draft. I would imagine that's the first big gap of like, hey, this could really happen. This is the first, like, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen right now. And I think Brandon Ayuk goes for a second round pick. I don't think he goes for more than a second round pick. I look at that as, if you can move back to 28 and make that move happen in the first round, and then spend day 2, that 24-hour gap, negotiating trades for a wide receiver with the San Francisco 49ers, where maybe you give up a second and maybe a third, and that's like the max offer I would give up. I think it's going to be much less than that, but let's say it's a second and a third just to get crazy here. You still have a second and a third round pick. Like, you could still, and you just added a wide receiver. You selected whoever in the first round, whether that be an offensive tackle or a center. You still have a second round pick and you have a third round pick available. I mean, the options that it opens up, the options that making that move from 20 to 28 opens up is crazy for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I don't think it's a move that, depending on who's there, again, I could probably name 4 guys that are like realistic options. Cooper DeJean's probably one of them. Quinion Mitchell, I don't think is gonna fall, but I mean, maybe he falls. There's like the slight, slim chance that Troy Fautanu falls to 20, and the Steelers love Troy Fautanu, so I could see maybe that's a name. Besides that, I don't. Maybe Terrion Arnold. Maybe Terrion Arnold, and I think that he has a shot of getting to 20. But I'm not totally convinced that the Steelers love him as much as they love Cooper DeJean and Quinion Mitchell. And I think if it's not those 4 guys, realistic 4 guys, there's nothing holding the Steelers back from making a move out of 20 back to however far back you can possibly get. And I think that's I don't know. We'll know more when Omar and Mike talk during their NFL draft, and they won't give us anything good, but you'll kind of get a hint of like how many people have called, and is it real that this team could be building? But I would expect the Bills to be aggressive, and I think Omar Khan and Brandon Beane working together, like it's you're putting the ingredients in the pot for a draft day trade, and I could see those two happening. And again, Graham Barton, I think, is a great move, but I'm moving back to get more options. And I'm feeling really good about that selection. I'm even feeling good about that selection if Cooper DeJean's on the board, if Quinion, like if all those guys are on the board and you still move back, I wouldn't argue with the move. I would look at it and say, you got better value. You know, you got more picks. It's a good draft class. It's a good top heavy draft class. The first 3 rounds are really good in this draft. The rest of them, but the first 3 rounds have a lot of talent, especially in the positions that the Steelers need outside of offensive tackle. So that's the move.